Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of For What It's Nerd. I actually wasn't going to record an episode today, primarily because it's been a hectic week. But I'm here, and I'm somehow ending up doing it anyway. Because sometimes I think you have to push through. I think sometimes that, regardless of what's going on, regardless of how tired you are or exhausted you are, or how many things you have left to do on a day, you have to sometimes make time for the things that matter to you. And as you guys probably know by this point, For What It's Nerd does matter to me. So here we are. I'll be honest, I've not had a chance to kind of think about what I want to discuss today, primarily because of how busy a week it's been. And I think that's important to kind of note. I've talked about this a lot, and I think maybe I'm slightly retracing all ground here. But I find that a lot of the time, content creators or aspiring content creators take their notion of content creating to be, we must be doing this every second of every day. And I think actually that's something that society has as a whole. When you look at it, people think, oh, we must be working, we must be doing this, we must be doing that, And I find that to be a case even in like most workplaces, actually. Once upon a time, you would never work a weekend, or very rarely. Certain industries, but very, very select industries, like shops had to stay open, etc., so on and so forth. But now I feel like we have to be on all the time, and I think this relates into pretty much everything. I think this is like a human condition, so to speak, that we've kind of developed since kind of maybe the Industrial Revolution onwards. I mean, maybe that's a bit broad, maybe that's a bit expansive, but it's like Sunday, for example. Today, I always record, or generally record, For What It's Nerd on a Sunday, and I thought about that a little bit today, and I was like, why am I recording on a Sunday? Like, Sundays are meant to be almost sacred, not religiously speaking, but generally speaking, is like the day to relax. But here I am recording for a podcast. Now, for me personally, I enjoy making For What It's Nerd. I enjoy people hearing about my thoughts, and I enjoy hearing what people think of my thoughts and all that stuff. But it is funny. It is really funny. And I know this is kind of outside of the nerdosphere, so to speak, slightly. But I think it's important to say, and I think it's important to discuss about, because I do think it goes outside it, but then comes back into it. I think you've got this kind of idea that we must always be on, we must always be doing something, we must always reach a goal. And I think that happens to come into hobbies and come into like gaming and come into, reading, writing, everything has to be, you must complete this today. You must do that today. And I am like a person who's big falling into that, like all the time. Like I constantly feel like if I haven't done this, and this, then my day is a failure. And I don't think I'll ever change from that. I think I might adapt from that. I think I might, start to see a certain few things differently, or say that doesn't matter so much as that does, for example. Start picking and choosing, or start being more brutally honest about the time I have and what I can do with that time. But content creators and like gamers in general, I feel, are constantly racing to try and do more. And the same can be said of people who want to read books and stuff, but I think for whatever reason, because I think unlike books and unlike movies or moviegoers, for example, yes, there's a million different movies, but there's certain movies that will never catch your attention. Whereas I feel like gaming is one that kind of, generally there's a lot of games that gamers like, if that makes sense. Like, as, movies are, how do I put it? Movies are given to a bigger audience, right? So, there are movies that come out every day there's some that are made for kids, like fully for kids, that you just will never enjoy. There are movies that are made for a more mainstream audience, let's say, general kind of movies that aren't necessarily anything nerdy or otherwise informed. And those can generally pass you by as well, because sometimes you're not particularly interested in watching, another, murder documentary or another murder movie or another thriller or whatever. Sometimes you're not interested, right? Because you've seen it before, or you've seen it in a superhero context already, or whatever, for example. But with gaming, I think it's different. Now, don't get me wrong, there are kids' games, there are more mainstream games, you've got your Mario and your Super Smash and, stuff like that. But on the whole, I think gamers as an entity are more interested in most of the stuff that comes out. Like, I think most people will have tried a Pokemon game. I think most people will have tried like a first-person shooter. Most people will have tried this. Most people will have tried that. And because I think we're open to so many different types of gaming and types of games, and especially because there are online games that essentially could go on forever, you can make your own content in them essentially. You know, challenge yourself to do harder content, or just even run it with friends, or all this type of stuff. Gaming seems endless, like in a way that like film books could just never be. Because a book, if you enjoy a book series, the next book will take 9 to 10 to 12 to 3 years to however many long, you can talk about 12 months, sorry, but versus like 3 years. Like, it could take forever to write the next book. If you're a George R.R. Martin, for example. Now, I haven't read those, I just know the meme. So the Game of Thrones meme, by the way. The kind of thing that he hasn't written the last book for, or the second to last, or however many books ends up being, for years. And I think that's the kind of the point, right? Like, anything else seems to be able to just meander, take as long as it needs to. But gaming and the content creation that comes out of gaming is endless. Like, for example, I am currently trying to finish The Quarry. I am currently trying to play through Mass Effect. I think I've talked about this before, but I have a lot of games on the go. And then Gotham Knights has just come out. Pokemon comes out in a month, the new Pokemon, Scarlet and Violet. There's other games that I want to play that I have on the backlog for months now, because there is so much potential. And the thing is, as well, with gaming, I find that people are a lot more willing to take recommendation. I think I've talked about this briefly as well before, but the idea is that, like, if a friend says to you, this game is good, you generally want to play it. Like, you'll be interested to see how they view that game. Like, it's very interesting to see how many gamers kind of take note from others. Like, you'll see, for example, on Twitch, that when one person plays a game, you might have 3 or 4 people in the chat saying, oh, this makes me want to try this game. You don't necessarily get that so much with movies, for example, because someone will say, oh, I really enjoyed this movie, and someone will be like, yeah. It's almost like, because you're seeing someone else play it, you might play it yourself. And I don't think you get that experience elsewhere, because, like, unless someone says, oh, let's put a movie on, and they choose a movie, but you might not be as invested in that from the off, if that makes sense. Gaming is a thing that seems to kind of keep you on the treadmill more. And I think it can be very hard to feel accomplished with that, because, if you, for example, say to someone, oh, did you finish all of these books? Someone will say, yes. But if you say to someone who games, did you finish all of these games? The likelihood is they'll say no. And the reason for that is games are churned out significantly quicker. And that's not like on like industry average, I imagine not so. I imagine that there's more books coming out every day than there are games coming out, but it's a different thing, right? It's a different entity, because there are books that come out that will never be of interest to everyone. Whereas gaming within the gaming sphere is generally more interesting, going back to my earlier point. So I think it's very weird. I think it's very interesting to see, from a content creator's perspective, that creates a catch-up game. A very, very hard catch-up game, because you have to stay relevant to the games coming out. So not only, it's like an extra added step. So not only do you have to keep up with the games and play them, you then have to keep up with the games and make content and play them, and then get ready for the next game, and then stay ahead of that, and then get news out as soon as it comes out, and then do this and then do that. And suddenly you find yourself ragged. Now, I envy my friends who don't do that. I wish I could do that. I wish I could just say no. I think it's a lot easier to kind of just play the games you want to play. And don't get me wrong, I do that. Like, I don't play, like, there's not, I won't, for example, look at games coming out and go, oh, that one seems popular with everyone, I'm going to play it, so to speak. If there's a game that's coming out that I think will be relevant and I will enjoy, I'll cover it, so to speak. But I don't think it's very easy to go, I don't think it's very easy to go, oh, I'm going to miss that one. Because as soon as you do that, you're essentially making yourself irrelevant for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And it's very hard, like, as compared to other genres of YouTubers, or other genres of, like, Twitch streamers, or other genres of whatever. if you're trying to keep up with the latest games, like, or you're a variety streamer, or you like reviewing things, and you do that on top of doing something else, like a normal job or whatever, you will always be behind, and it's so difficult because like it starts to feel like you can't do it, you can't make it, because you will always be behind the curve of those people who have already made it, because they will have the latest news, be able to sit down and create a video about it. And that's somewhat frustrating, not because they haven't earned it, they have, obviously, they got there. But it's very hard to feel like your content is worthwhile when you're always 3 steps behind. But again, not to say that that's anyone's fault, it obviously isn't. But it's a very hard thing to deal with. And so what I was saying before is that I envy those people who don't do that. I envy those people who perhaps stream on Twitch and don't make YouTube videos. Now, I personally couldn't do that. I don't like the idea of that because I feel like for me, I like that I'm on YouTube and Twitch. Now, that's not for everyone. A lot of people don't like making videos. They just want to be on Twitch and enjoy people's company, and that's fine. But I want to make content as well. And so some people say they're a streamer versus a content creator, and there is a distinction there. Streamers are around the idea of, I just want to stream, I just want to play games, I want to enjoy people's company, and yeah, that's great. Oppositely, there's people who are like, I want to make content out of my streams as well as enjoy the streaming process. So I think there's a very interesting kind of dichotomy there. One that I find makes me struggle a lot in terms of enjoying things and finishing things, and feeling like I'm worthwhile in regards to the content I'm making. I wish I could take it more lax. I don't think I ever will. I don't think I know what being lax is. I don't think I ever will. Just say it again. It's hard. It's hard, is what it is. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff surrounding that going around at the moment, especially because we're entering kind of that phase of a lot of stuff coming out at once again, and I think that can be very complex to navigate, especially if you like a lot of things. This is the thing, like, there's a lot of people who will just cover Fortnite, for example, or just cover shooter games, or just cover I find that hard as well. Like, I find like I don't think I could cover just one game. I don't think I like one game enough to just cover that. I think I find those people to be very, very interesting, because I find how, like, not just say that their interest in that game is uninteresting, but how can you have interest in just one game to make content? Like, I get it, but also I don't. Does that make sense? I would love to have that energy for one game, but I don't think I could. And I get that for some people it's a great leap board to then do other games, like a great stepping stone for continuing on to do loads more games, but I don't think I could. I don't think I could sit there and talk about the same game day in, day out. It's like, for example, I play Marvel Strike Force, which is a mobile game I've played for years now. Like, gosh, I can't even begin to imagine how many years I've played it. But, 4, 5, something like that. I don't even know how long it's been out. But anyway, the point is, there are content creators who have only ever made, pretty much, videos for that game. And I commend them, because that's amazing. And don't get me wrong, Marvel Strike Force has a lot of content that you can discuss about, generally speaking. It has a lot of stuff that's coming out. It has a lot of problems, which I know sounds very weird, but it's actually great for making videos. Like, the more problems a game has, the better, technically, because you can make more videos and you can get people to watch them, because people will be interested in talking about bugs or compensation or stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could dedicate my whole channel or my whole interest to one game, which probably detriments me and probably makes it harder for me to gain traction with any kind of given community. But that's just the way it is. I think, whilst I might be kind of creating a rod for my own back in a lot of ways, I think that's, how do I put it? I think that's normal. I think it's normal to not, want to kind of put all your eggs in one basket, or at least normal enough for me. I've never really been someone who, and I guess this comes back to kind of the intent of the channel, intent of the podcast. I've never been one person to kind of like just one thing. I think that's very much the reason. Like, for example, when we've discussed movies and shows and stuff before, She-Hulk versus Andor, let's say. She-Hulk is incredibly irreverent and funny and lighthearted and silly. And Andor is entirely the opposite of that. Mundane in a good way. Serious. Character driven in a way that is completely different to, it's about like dark kind of understanding of a character in a bad situation type thing versus like sitcom essentially. Legal comedy, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, like it's like that, I guess. It's like the idea that like I can like both those things, and so I find it hard to say this is the thing I'm going to focus on, because I am of the belief that there are so many things to enjoy, and this is again comes back to the game, playing too many games, playing too many things, doing too much. I want to enjoy as much as I can, and so I try to. And I think that fails a lot. I think I stress myself out more than I should. But I guess it's who I am. And, there's only so much you can apologize for who you are and what you do and how you feel about gaming and, culture and content creation. Like, it matters to me. And am I neurotic about it? Probably. Do people probably get sick of hearing me go on about it? Probably. But today, just for today, whether or not this is kind of a regular thing or not, we'll see. But at least for today, I kind of want to talk about it. And I kind of have, I guess, at this point, considering we're 17 minutes in so far. But I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to kind of alleviate the stress that I'm feeling, because I'm feeling it deep in my chest at the moment. Because, for example, this week, I've not been able to stream as much as I like because work has sadly moved my plans around a bit. And some other things as well has kind of like caused some issue in that regard. And I guess that's why I'm talking about it. I guess that's why I feel so frustrated at the moment with it. I think it's good to say it. I don't mean for this to become a thing that I do every so often, because I feel like I have done an episode similar to this before. But I think it's important to reiterate. I think it's important to kind of do this as kind of a update sometimes, and at least if nothing else, that I've done an episode of For What It's Nerd, even if I say the same thing. Some people might say, I can't believe you said the same thing as you did like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But think of it this way. For me, this makes it so I feel like I can continue to make things that aren't talking about the same thing, because at least for this week, I got the feelings off my chest. Does that make sense? Maybe that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But in this moment, it does. And I think that's what matters. Sometimes you'll sit here and you'll think, I have done this before. This is absolute garbage. And I'm probably even thinking it right now a little bit. This is garbage. Why are you putting this out? This is trash. This is shit. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting shit on the internet. Maybe I'm making you all eat shit. Viscerally. Visually. Not viscerally. Well, it would be visceral, but regardless, that's beyond the point. What I'm trying to say is maybe I'm making content that is absolute drivel right now. Maybe this is drivel. But for this week, I'll take drivel. You know what I mean? I think sometimes you have to take drivel, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. I think sometimes you have to say that is shit, but I'm still putting it out there, because you never know. You never know what's going to work, what doesn't work, what will work. All that type of stuff. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've rambled a lot recently. And I feel like some of these episodes haven't perhaps been as on point as others. And I think it's because I'm kind of running on... I'm kind of catching myself coming around almost. Like, I record one episode and the next episode needs to be recorded. And that's been a bit weird. But overall, we're here. We did it. We reached the end of another episode around abouts. And I think that's good. I think that's a good thing. I think that's commendable regardless of what I said in this episode. Even if I literally cringe at myself later for making this, at least I did it. That's the important thing. Sometimes it's, a lot of people say, oh, everyone gets medals for participating these days. And I think that's true. I think sometimes, participating is shit, right? Like, I don't want to medal for participation. I want to fucking win. But sometimes, actually, participation is pretty good. To know you did it, to know you went out and did that thing, regardless of whether you won or didn't win, and that's where I'm at. That's where I'm kind of feeling. So, yeah. I think I make sense. I think I made sense. I hope I made sense. If I didn't make sense, tell me. You can tell me. You can berate me. This episode might be a lost episode, so to speak. Like, it's one of those shit episodes. Everyone's like, gosh, the quality really went down. Like, in 20 years' time, someone will watch all these episodes and they'll be like, I really like 1 to like 12, and then 13 was really shit, and then 14 picked up again. I'm like that lost episode of a show that no one wants to talk about. Let's just skip over that episode. Let's just skip that one. And that's fine. Some episodes are skippable. And this is my skippable week, so to speak. I like that. Skippable week. My skippable week. That's a good one. Yeah. So as my skippable week comes to an end, and so this episode does as well, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for listening to my rambling. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.